Hey guys, what's up? Long time no see. Sorry, just gotta dust off the mic there. As many of you have no doubt noticed, I haven't made too many videos lately. I've been sort of stepping away from the bodybuilding scene. And if you're curious as to why, well, I made a post recently explaining on Instagram. You can check the link in the description. But anyway, I do still check in every now and then, and this contest was one of the better ones this year, so figured I'd give my 2 cents. And first of all, the footage was crap. One of the reasons that I've stopped covering every show is the sheer tedium and frustration of trying to hunt down decent footage. It shouldn't be this difficult. If pro bodybuilding and the IFBB Pro League ever wants to grow and expand the sport, they need to find a reliable way to record and distribute these shows, period. It's absolutely criminal and an insult to these hardworking competitors that we still need to rely on smartphone footage from the audience in 2022. That's fucking Bush League, and I'm tired and just over it, man. So take all this with a grain of salt because obviously the quality isn't the best, and that can heavily skew our perceptions. But as it is, I tell you what, I would have given it to James Hollingshead here. That's the guy in the black trunks with the beard, by the way. While admittedly this first shot isn't too great for him, his biceps definitely need work, and his lat width needs to be brought up as well. This is his weakest pose. He's only going to get better from here on out. I would give this one to the eventual winner, Andrew Jacked, there on the left in the green trunks. His body is showing the most detail from the front, and he's got the best guns in this pose for sure. After that, I like Patrick Johnson beside him there in the yellow trunks. This dude was thick as a house and powerfully built, with a better taper than Hollingshead. But he could have used a bit more posing oil to bring out that polished look and accentuate the muscle contours a bit more. Okay, so Martin Fitzwater is the shorter guy on the right, rounding out this top 4. And I think 4th place was the right call for him because he was giving up too much size on this call-out. A nice physique, but one that I personally think would be better suited for 212 given his smaller stature. So in this shot, I like Patrick Johnson. We don't get to see Andrew, unfortunately, but of these 3, I think Johnson looks the best with the most powerful upper body. And the legs are hanging right there with James's, who has one of the strongest and most balanced lower bodies in the game right now, especially from the front. In fact, Hollingshead reminds me of this generation's Branch Warren. He's got great wheels and that same hard, grainy type of muscle. Not quite as shredded as Branch was, perhaps, and definitely not as vascular, but probably a more shapely physique overall, more symmetrical. But as with Branch, not as much separation between muscle bellies and adjacent body parts as you might hope to see. Still, very thick and massive, and a close second to Johnson here. Keep in mind again that this is totally discounting Andrew Jacked, as he wasn't visible in this pose, so I can't say how he compares. In the side chests, that's some tremendous outer thigh separation on Fitzwater. I really like his lower body presentation here. Although the upper half, I'm not too crazy about. It's a bit underwhelming. You can see how he's getting out-muscled pretty bad right now when looking at the chest. Patrick Johnson has similarly amazing sharp cuts through the thighs, but his upper body is leaps and bounds ahead of Martin's. This actually reminds me of Akeem Williams with those super thick and round pecs. Probably his best pose right here. Hollingshead is solid and thick as hell himself, but if I'm being honest, I think he's getting edged out by Patrick, who shows superior detail, especially in the legs from the side. We do get a brief glance at Andrew Jack now, and I've got to say, this side chest is good, but not great. You can see how badly he loses to Johnson in terms of the thickness and density, and that usually happens to these prettier and more aesthetic physiques. They look phenomenal from the front, but you turn them to the side or the rear, and they tend to get out-muscled pretty badly. Not only that, but Patrick also looks harder. Andrew looks kind of soft, like he's holding a film of water. And that holds true from the rear as well, where you can note that Mr. Jax has the worst lower body conditioning of the group. Still a great physique and some incredible shape and detail upstairs, but how the worst conditioned bodybuilder wins the show when some of these other guys nailed it and came in the best shapes of their lives, that to me doesn't add up. Was Andrew's shapeliness and structural advantages really enough to overcome this deficiency in conditioning? Apparently the judges thought so, but I'm not convinced. To be fair, I do think he has the best upper body here, especially when you factor in the arms. But Hollingshead utterly smokes him downstairs, and his back looks great too. So overall, this is an easy win for James here in the back double. The lat spread also goes to Hollingshead. He was dry and peeled from head to toe. Combined with all that mass, that's enough to overcome some of his structural limitations in many poses like this. I would even put Johnson ahead of Andrew here simply for the lower body alone, even though Andrew was a bit wider. The side tricep, interestingly, goes to Martin in my book. It could just be a favorable angle, but he's nailing it here. The arm looks humongous, the abs are tight and defined, and he's just crushing this Yates-style tricep shot. Andrew looks stronger when he turns to the front to showcase those feathered quads, and now you could even make an argument for him winning, but I'm sticking with Fitzwater for the statuesque execution. Patrick and James are both solid as hell in their own rights, so, man, I don't know. Honestly, they all look terrific, and you can make an argument for any of them here. In the ab and thigh, though, it's tough to go wrong with Andrew jacked. He's got a great midsection with those wide, symmetrical ab muscles, and his quads and taper are really good also, so his flow is on point. Patrick Johnson is probably second for me because he's got a surprisingly good midsection for a big man, so even if he's not quite as chiseled or aesthetic as Fitzwater, he outmasses him by a substantial margin, and that's gotta count for something in the open class. As for James, I hate to say this because he's perfectly respectable here, but he might just come in last in this pose, for no other reason than he has the most poorly formed abs. His core is still tight, but it's just a genetic thing that his midsection isn't as picturesque as these other guys. Then again, his quads are probably the best from a size and sweep standpoint, so you can't really dock him too hard. And lastly, in the most muscular, I don't know. None of them seem to really get into it, to tell you the truth. They didn't really make much of an effort, which is weird because usually this is the pose that the bodybuilders get the most amped for. There really isn't a whole lot to separate Patrick and James here, who both look very similar in the hands-on hip. Martin's lack of mass lands him in last, and Andrew jacked could go one of two ways. Either he's first because you like his superior structure with that shoulder-to-waist ratio and all the detail he displays from the front, or he's third because he gets out-muscled by these thicker guys in the middle who fill out their frames more. Personally, I'm in the camp that he's third, but then again, it's hard to tell with this crappy footage, so as I warned in the beginning, take all of this analysis with a hefty dose of salt. For what it's worth, I believe that James Hollingshead, drier conditioning, and superiority from the back should have sealed the deal for him at this show. I would have actually switched him and Andrew, with James winning and Andrew coming in third, and still had Patrick remaining in second. Yes, you heard that right. I know there's a lot of excitement for the new kid on the block, and indeed, he has a sensational physique for a rookie, and arguably did look the most polished from the front. But his lack of conditioning from the rear and lack of density from the side should have cost him against these more seasoned and mature physiques. Then again, with a much softer Brandon Curry beating out William Bonac at the regular Arnold Classic earlier this year, maybe this is what we should come to expect now from the Arnold. That is, the most aesthetically pleasing physique gets the W, so long as they're not getting too badly outsized and don't come in wildly off the mark. I can kind of see the rationale there to try to appeal to a broader audience, but I don't think it's very fitting or consistent with how they generally judge this class at other shows. But hey man, whatever, it's not like the IFBB has ever been super consistent or transparent whatsoever with how they judge these contests, so fuck it. Congratulations, Andrew Jacked, you look good and have immense potential. And sorry, James, sorry that you bothered showing up peeled out of your mind. Not sure why you put in all that work and sacrifice when it mostly boils down to genetic shape and structure at the end of the day. I guess you thought this was still the early 2010s when guys like yourself and Branch Warren could prevail off of grainy conditioning and muscularity alone? Oh, you sweet summer child, you. Alright then, everyone, sarcasm aside, this was a great show, and thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was this result really as controversial as I think it was, or am I simply overreacting? Either way, thanks for tuning in again, and much love, homies. Tominator out.